Hey Moxie, what is going on? Happy HomeWOD day number 51, guys, okay? We have a couple cool things going on today, all right? First, let's kind of talk about what we did yesterday, all right? We had a knockdown, drag out Metcon, okay? Chances are you might be feeling that a little bit today. There was a lot of volume, both of dumbbell snatches and of burpees. So to help us hopefully recover a little bit from that, or at least not continue that beat down, we're going to back the volume off a little bit today, and we might even be backing the intensity off a little bit as well. Our main metabolic conditioning piece, therefore, is an 8-minute AMRAP of a 200-meter run and 14 goblet lunges, okay? What we're looking for here is just a really sustainable pace, all right? We should be able to control how fast we run that 200 so that we can pretty much hold that pace every time, and we should be able to find a pace on those 14 goblet lunges, hopefully at an appropriate weight for us, where we can just walk in from that run, pick the weight up, hit our lunges, and then get right back to the run. Ideally, we're not really going to be stopping at any point here, and then after 8 minutes, we're done. If there's one thing that you should be thinking about, whenever we get to those last 2 minutes though, let's try to start picking up that pace a little bit. If we paced it right, the first 6 minutes should be really controlled, last 2 minutes, aggressive, okay? Now, one thing to note here, just kind of from a technique perspective, on those lunges today, guys, let's really be thinking about keeping balance in our foot, okay? I've noticed the past few times when I've done lunges, it's hard, for me at least, to keep pressure on my big toe whenever on that front leg, right? Whenever I'm stepping up, I just kind of want to rock out to the outside of my foot, and that's just not a particularly stable position to squat in, okay? So rather than that, right, where we're rocking to the outside, let's try to keep some pressure on that big toe throughout every single step of our lunges on that front leg, okay? Now, the other piece that we have today is our first barbell piece of the week, and it's going to be our Olympic lifting technique, okay? Now, the past few weeks, we've been spending a lot of time working on snatches. This week, we're transitioning over, we're going to do some cleans, all right? And the clean work today is really, really similar to the snatch work that we did last Friday. Okay, the way it's going to work, we're going to have every 2 minutes for 5 total sets. We're going to do 1 tempo clean pull and 1 3-position clean. Okay, that is going to be a full squat clean today. And we're going to start 55% of our 1 rep max. We're going to build up 65, maybe 70%, but still keeping it within some pretty comfortable loads for us where we can really dial in technique. Okay, now there's 2 things that we're really trying to work on. On the tempo pull, we're going to take 3 seconds to go from the ground to our knees, okay? That is going to be a very slow first pull of this lift. And what that's going to allow us to do is really dial in our positioning for that, all right? One thing that I know I have a tendency to do and that a lot of us tend to do, especially when the weights get heavier, is on our first pull of our clean, right? Whenever we're getting that bar off the ground, the first thing that we do, even if we start with an upright chest, is we kind of shoot our butt up first, and then, right, we go into the rest of our clean. With this tempo pull, we really want to avoid that so that whenever we have that initial set position and then as we start to move up, my hips and shoulders should be rising at the same rate. And you're going to be able to feel this because your quads are going to be a little bit more loaded than what you're used to. All right, so just kind of be cognizant of that on that 3-second tempo. You have plenty of time to actually be thinking about those positions. Then on our 3-position clean that we're going to hit after that pull, the focus is the same today as it was for our snatches on Friday, okay? And that is footwork. Make sure that every lift is going to start wherever it was that you did your clean pull, all right? For some of us, that might be hip width apart. For others of us, it might be a little bit outside that. I know I tend to pull a little bit outside hip width, but regardless, where we pull is going to be narrower than where we squat, okay? And what we want to be sure of is that on each lift, I'm going to move from that pulling stance out to my squatting stance, okay? And the thing that I would really recommend here is having some way of verifying, did I make the positions that I was looking for, right? Now, it's obviously pretty easy to start in your pulling stance each time, but let's have a way to validate, did I get to my squatting stance, all right? You could maybe mark where your ideal squatting stance is and kind of see how close to it you are. Or if you just kind of want to have more of an anecdotal approach, at the top of each rep, you can just kind of look down and see, are my feet about where I want them to be? Right? I know for myself, especially kind of as I start lifting a little bit heavier, my positioning isn't always exactly where I think, or at least where it feels like it is, all right? So let's just kind of be aware of that, be thinking about how can I improve that position, all right? Now, one note I do want to make right here is if we're doing the non-barbell version, we have 2 movements we're going to do every 2 minutes. One is a seated vertical jump where we're just trying to work on some aggressive hip extension going up. And the other movement is a goblet or a odd object front rack squat hold, okay? And our goal here really with that squat hold is twofold. Number one, we do want to force an upright torso position that we need for things like overhead squats and front squats. But the other thing that we're working on is building some midline strength with a load that's actually going to be a little bit out front of our center of mass, all right? Whenever we front squat, back squat, overhead squat, the bar should almost always be right on top of us. With this goblet or this odd object front squat, it shouldn't be, okay? So if we're doing this with a dumbbell, let's make sure that we're not racking it kind of up against our throat on our shoulders. We should actually be holding it slightly out in front of us as we go down, because that's going to significantly increase the midline stability demands for us. Same sort of thing with an odd object. Since it's so large and most likely going to be a little bit out front of us, it's also going to increase those midline demands. And that's really what we're going after today with that squat hold, okay? So just kind of be thinking about some of this stuff, guys. Hope it helps. And I'll be back to talk to you guys about HomeWOD 52 tomorrow.